Hello, friends, and welcome back to Owning Authenticity. My name is Carly, and we are diving back into the Mermaid Portal to take an extra loving look at the Capricorn shadow. Okay, at the time I'm recording this on December 23rd, 2023, we are just beginning Capricorn season, meaning if you're watching this at the time of recording, we have the next month or so to be with this Capricorn shadow that exists in every single person. And by being with it in ourselves, I think it also helps us to recognize when people are in that same shadow pattern out in the world. Like you observe, like, wow, that's the Capricorn shadow right there. And at that point, you're no longer taking it personally, like take it less personally inside your own programming, inside your own patterning. Like it got there for a reason, okay? And we're going to talk all about that. And take it less personally when other people feel the need to spin in their Capricorn shadow, like all of the shadow patterns that exist within each of the 12 signs of the zodiac, they each serve their own evolutionary purpose. They each have a reason, just like the light side, the divine side of those different facets of our beingness. Like each of those facets has a reason, has an evolutionary purpose. Like you need all 12 of them to have the full human experience. So in the Mermaid Portal, I try to come to these shadows through a lens of total empowerment of the individual, meaning I don't have any answers about how to enjoy your life. All I can hope is to shine some light on this framework of understanding shadows this way, as far as coming into the Mermaid Portal, where we have access to more of our power and are in a somewhat at ease place, ego-wise, because the first step of approaching any shadow ever, I think about like a scared animal, like a scared little kitten that's starving and got its tail broken and it's just in fight or flight mode. Like when someone is in their shadow, we come to them slowly and calmly and letting them know that they're safe with us. I'm gonna love you, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm going to love you, I'm not going to hurt you. So really, what I hope these episodes can be, the Mermaid Portal episodes, there's a whole playlist of where I've done this for the other shadows of the episodes I've made so far. When we do this, it's most of what's in this video is loving the Capricorn shadow. So if you're a Capricorn hater, if you're triggered by accepting the rejectable side of Capricorn, which another word for shadow is the rejectable parts of ourselves. And what even is rejection? That's something that we get taught as far as what parts of us are good and what parts of us are bad. And all of that is just somebody else's opinion. Okay? So being it from the inside out is a whole other ballgame as far as coming up out of our programming, thinking and really more feeling beyond what we were taught, the traditions of things, the status quo of here's what already is, so I'm going to respect the chain of hierarchy and command of what is that. I'll just buy into it, and even if it doesn't feel good to me, I still just buy into it. So that's that Capricorn shadow of going with the status quo, whether the status quo is working or not. Okay. And so that's where we take Capricorn too far. Capricorn is a great, beautiful, brilliant, intelligent energy for building things and having the push, the sheer luck and determination to push through to the finish line. You know, like I may not get there as fast as I wanted to get there. I may get there with less pieces of me than what I really thought I was going to be bringing with me. But like, I'm going to get there, you know, like just that ferocity of like it's a mountain climbing energy. Capricorn, like it wants to stand on the top of the mountain. And, you know, it's hard to stand on the top of a mountain, but like, I want to stand on the top of the mountain. And so that the beauty of Capricorn energy is that truly you are capable of things that other people would dismiss so easily as like, that's impossible. Like, oh, you shouldn't do that because like, that's what a waste of time. That's impossible. And you're sitting there like, no, I can see the path of the mountain. It seems like it's just a matter of walking up the mountain. And so here I'm going to walk up the mountain. And like, I mean, with heavy Capricorn energy, like with a Capricorn South Node, Capricorn Descendant, Capricorn IC, Capricorn Earth, Capricorn Mercury, like Capricorn Jupiter. There's so many different ways that you can end up with like heavy Capricorn energy. And what is it good for? It's good for setting your sights on something and making it real. Like, I like to think of Capricorn as like a hidden visionary. You know, like Capricorn has a goal. And what is a goal? It's a vision of what's possible if I will go there. A goal is like, if I will go there, then this whole world is up there, you know, like, and like, that's the goal. It's not to get the piece of paper. It's like the door that gets opened from the piece of paper being the lock in the key, like the key in the lock on the door. So heavy Capricorn energy, it gets us to places that other people without as much Capricorn push and drive. They would say that's impossible and you shouldn't even waste your time, you know? And it's a good place to remind all of us, myself included, that like anybody who is telling you about the limitations that exist, every single one of us can't help it. So precious, we are locked inside of our own perspective. So when somebody says that is impossible, you're never going to get past this because like, you know, you can't get past this. You know, they see it from their point of view. And from their point of view, it probably is factually impossible from their point of view. Like, what I'm saying is they're right, you know, like as far as them saying like that's impossible for you, obviously it is, you know, but I see a way. And the thing about it is, this is like what's so hidden, but so powerful and so simple is like the I see a way. It's like you wouldn't necessarily have to do anything with that. You know, you could see a way up the mountain and not actually walk up the mountain. You know, that's possible. And there's lots of people who have secret, unlived ambitions, which is to say, like, I see a way up the mountain. I have ambition that says, like, I think if I did all these things, that there's this world up there, and I really want to be up there. And then they don't ever go up there, right? Like they don't ever do the scary thing of like leaving home, walking step by step by step by step by step to get yourself up there. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? And like heavy Capricorn energy, it just couldn't be more natural. It's like from the second you're standing on top of the mountain, like here's where I wanted to be, like I beat it and now I am it. And you're like, what's next? What's my next mountain? You know, like it just is. I geek out because it is such a beautiful drive. It is a powerful, powerful creative force within our psyche is our Capricorn energy. And as a human species, Capricorn is largely responsible for the quality of life that currently exists on this planet. Like, look at like the collective consciousness as like human. Like, look at what human built. like look at how good human made it for itself. Like, if you can see it, you can build it. Like, if you can see a way, if you have the ambition to like, I can see a way and I think that's up there, you can bring it to life. That's what Capricorn's good at. And that's also a great place to say, you know, here's where that's an example of kind of lulling the ego, where we can love the thing that is this heavy Capricorn energy that gives us like often the shadow side of having it in spades, is that sometimes I overdose on it. Sometimes other people overdose on my energy without either one of us really realizing that's what's happening. So at this point, our ego can feel good and like have something to hold on to, that like, no, like, you're good. Like, nobody's saying you're bad. And it's great that you have this level of Capricorn energy. And if anything, that kind of being able to realize ambition into physical, tangible surroundings, like to put yourself on top of the mountain because you fucking climbed yourself up there. Like, this is the gift of what you want to give. And that's where like the shadow side then of being able to look at like, okay, so that's why it's great that we have it, but where do we take it too far? And where it goes too far is when we start trying to realize other people's ambition for them. Okay, so it's like this powerful drive to create in the world and to have a vision, have an ambition, and to live it out. Like, it doesn't, like, basically it does not translate to other people per se. Like, you cannot be that for them. But I will say, if you will align yourself with somebody else who has that drive themselves to like have the vision and make it real. Like, if somebody is like as ferocious as you are, they just like need somebody to like be a sounding board to like bounce ideas off of and like whatever. Like, Cancer North Nodes or Cancer Sun sign or like Cancer rising, or these are all pieces where you make excellent cheerleaders. Okay. And like, I mean like that in the best, most loving, important way. You're a cheer leader. You lead people by cheering for them. Okay. So like, it's like positive reinforcement 101. And I feel like Capricorn South Node, Capricorn Descendant, Capricorn Earth sign, whatever, Capricorn Shadow is, instead of cheering for them, you're troubleshooting why they are not moving faster towards their ambition being realized. Okay? And like, again, the fact that you have that drive is a powerful force for not only building the quality of life that exists on this planet, but raising the quality of life that exists on this planet. And I believe that water north nodes in general are here for that. Like, I think all of this wisdom from our Earth South Node, I say our, like as a Virgo South Node, like, you know, any Taurus South Node, Virgo South Node, Capricorn South Node, like, you have maxed out your experience in the Earth School as far as like how to do things physically by taking the steps required to produce the thing through physical action. Like, expert level. That's an Earth South Node, is that you know how to make shit happen. Okay. So like, you don't need to practice that anymore. What do you need to practice? You need to practice leveraging that shit. Okay. Like, leveraging it as far as you know how to live your life of like what you want it to be. You know how to have an aspiration and live it out. Not everybody has the clarity of being able to see what is the world at the top of the mountain. Okay. And that's one of the things that you guys are amazing at, is like world building of, like, again, the hidden visionary, like world building. What is up there? What the fuck is up there? What is at the top of your mountain? Because Capricorn is not just climbing to climb. They want to be at the top of the mountain. They want that view. That's what they want. So all the effort that you see Capricorn expending, it's like, it's worth it. Hopefully. Here's my experience as, like, through my own lens of my Capricorn energy. What I have going on in Capricorn in my chart is my midheaven is in Capricorn, and my Neptune is in Capricorn. And I would say this story is much more the Neptune part of it, although I don't really know that. That's just my vibe. Neptune being responsible for disillusioning our perception of things. So there is much that is veiled in reality. There's a lot that's hidden in reality. And Neptune is the ability to see through that veil from, like, what is being shown to you in reality. Like, what is the 3D experience that has manifested around you? And what's behind the veil, right? Like, what's really going on here? And that disillusionment process comes in waves. It, like, is like the ocean. It's never ending. And it's like just one wave at a time rolling up on your shore. And then it goes back out, and one wave at a time rolling up on your shore. And Neptune, whatever sign it's in your chart, it's like, it's every time the wave rolls up on your shore, it brings you a little bit more disillusionment in the sign that your Neptune is in. And so Neptune and Capricorn, for me, it's like on a daily fucking basis, I have to learn the lesson. Like, I shit you not, like every day I learn the lesson. There is no there. There is no there at the top of the mountain. Like, every day I ground back in to this present moment, and the joy of how I spend it is all there ever is. Because as like a Neptune and Capricorn, I think basically the experience is that what's shown to me in reality is really shiny and sparkly, and like, oh, there's riches, and like, if you go this way, there's so many riches. And it's like, that was all just like a screen. It like wasn't real, but I didn't know that it wasn't real until I actually went towards it and found, like, the Truman Show, like, touched the edge of, like, you know, get a graduate's degree, get a master's degree, and thought that I would feel like accomplished and confident and a whole host of other things that I thought was the world at the top. That's why I was doing it. I put in all that effort to get myself up the mountain because I thought at the top of the mountain was confidence, and standing at the top of the mountain feeling the same insecure, low self-esteem that I felt climbing up the mountain before I started climbing up the mountain. Like, it wasn't different. It didn't change anything. And I've done many things in my life because I think confidence exists at the top of the mountain. And I climb and I climb and I climb and I climb and I climb, and I work so hard to get up there because confidence is up there. And if I could just get up there, then I'll be confident. And there is no there. Nothing exists at the top of the mountain. That's the real truth. That's the absolute, like, hate to break it to you. There is no there. But everything, fucking everything in the 3D serves an evolutionary purpose. So what's the point, right? Like, what is the actual point? And that is where I'm so excited to say that have you ever heard the concept in psychology of the carrot and the stick? Okay, the carrot and the stick. The carrot is what dangles out in front of you so that you will walk in this way. And like, think of the vision, the what's at the top of the mountain, or what you think is at the top of the mountain, what you're gonna gaslight yourself into believing is at the top of the mountain. Gas lamp is the term I heard the other day, which just like cracks my shit up. I'm like, it is like, that is basically what a spiritual journey is like, instead of letting the world brainwash you, choosing to brainwash yourself so that you can just have whatever you want. So yeah, gaslamp yourself to your heart's content, to create the world of your dreams. And Capricorn mastery is the ability to basically have that vision, have that ambition, that aspiration of what is it that you want. And like, I'm picturing like a stick that's like wrapped to yourself, and it's got a carrot dangling out in front. So like, as you move towards it, you don't ever really get there. Okay. But there's no there anyway. So it's really only about like, what direction do you want to head, and what do you want to paint on that screen so that when it gets hard and you're tired and you feel like your gas tank is empty and all there is fumes, what is worth it to paint on that screen so that you would go a little bit further? You know, so that you would walk a little bit more, that you would dig a little bit deeper into what are you really capable of. And that's why I say heavy Capricorn energy, like you're here to prove to the naysayers that like what they say is impossible is just impossible for them. You know, like if you can see a way, if you can paint something really fucking convincing on that screen, if you can hang the world's most delicious carrot out in front of you so that it's basically just like, just smelling the carrot, just even like being in the vicinity of this vision, of like just even thinking about the fact that like that's possible. I don't care that it's not real. It doesn't have to be real, you know, like there is no there. Right? So like, that's really, again, where the true wisdom of Capricorn, the true mastery of Capricorn is going to come from, is like, number one, what are we going to paint on the screen? Like that world building, like how can we visualize what we aspire to so that there's something really convincing on that screen in front of us? There's a really yummy carrot dangling in front of us. What is that? And you are leading by cheering them on. Right? There's no there. They're not going to be more when they stand on top of the mountain. They're going to be who they are, just like they are right now. And so just like you would cheer for them if they really did stand on the top of the mountain, cheer for them today. Cheer for them right now. Positive reinforcement 101. Cheer for every single millimeter that they are already there. You know, there is no there. There's only the quality of feeling, the quality of life that you are living in this moment right here, right now, today. And so that's the other disillusioning part of Capricorn, is like when you put yourself through fucking hell, you take away every ounce of your quality of living because the goal is worth it. You're sacrificing for the goal. And then you get there and there is no there, and you just put yourself through hell for nothing. That's what a lot of people think goal setting is, or like, you know, I'm going to lose a bunch of weight by depriving myself. It's like, there is no there, because that's why people like bounce back and like gain all the weight back or gain back more weight than they lost the first time, is because they thought they would feel different and it didn't actually solve anything. They're still them, just with 100 less pounds. And I can only tell that story because one of the many disillusionments was I had such body hatred going on, fatness, cellulite, rolls, dimples, whatever, lines, creases. And I lost like 45 pounds. I'm standing looking in the mirror at like 115 pounds. And I'm like, I look the same. I don't look any different. I still see the little bulge that sticks out at the top of my thigh. That's what I see. And like, I've lost 45 pounds and that bulge is still fucking there. There's no there, okay? You're still you. Nothing changes. The goal is a motivator, and it's like the carrot or the stick. Like Capricorn, the best of Capricorn is the beauty of the carrot, the beauty of like positive reinforcement, the beauty of positive incentive, of like when I walk in this direction, when I think about the world at the top of the mountain, like it makes me happy right here, right now. And like your job as the cheerleader is to help them know that like it's all only ever about being happy right here, right now, and the joy along the journey. Right? The joy about where you're going, and the joy about even moving one step in that direction, and realizing that like the reason that the top of the mountain doesn't feel different is because it's really not about standing there. It's the joy is in the journey. If you've heard that phrase, like this is what they're talking about, right? Like every step along the way, you become it a little bit more. So we think like graduating is going to be the day that we feel like, oh, I did it. And it's like, no, like you took the test, you did it. You went to the class, you did it. You asked the question, you did it. Like that's it. That's all there is. There's no more than right here, right now. So that is the biggest magic sauce that I can give you as far as healing the Capricorn shadow and being with it, is understanding the beautiful mechanics of what it is capable of, what it is responsible for creating in this world. I mean, our Capricorn, our Saturn energy is responsible for the quality of life that we enjoy. And we can believe that that quality of life is like marginal or subpar or average or whatever. But like, dude, I encourage you to think back even like 40, 50 years ago. And like, I love visiting my grandma, like, and how the internet and Google and having answers at your fingertips, and how many more questions I ask in a day because I know I can find the answer. How many questions she doesn't even let herself wonder about because the internet blows her mind. So like, it's so refreshing to remember like the quality of life that we live on this planet because of what human built, you know? And like, we are part of that. We get to build, we get to paint whatever we want. We get to hang whatever carrot we want out in front of us. We get to vision and visualize whatever we want. And every step along the way is the becoming. The day we stand on the top of the mountain is just another day. You know, like this moment right here, right now, this is it. This is all there is. And like, are you happy with how you're spending it? Am I cheerful about how I'm spending it? And I'm not talking about forcing yourself to be cheerful. I'm talking about like, are you loving the climb? Is it exhilarating to climb in this way? Because when you are on the right path, it is. And if you're climbing the wrong mountain, if you're doing it only for what's at the top of the mountain, the climb can feel like punishment at times. And all that means is that you're climbing the wrong mountain. You know, like that difficulty, that struggle, that challenge that so many people live with, they're barking up the wrong tree, and that's it. And, you know, that's again where Capricorn mastery can really shine as far as helping people to understand that it matters what it is that you're trying to do. You know, we can push and push and push and push and push and push and push, but if we're pushing with our little squirrel arms on a brick wall, a brick house, like all the effort in the world isn't gonna do anything. So consulting on, you know, how to focus on like the motivation behind why am I climbing? Why am I reaching for this? What is it that I'm hoping to find at the top of the mountain? And how do I find it right here, right now, today? You know, one of the kindest messages you can give to people is that you're already doing it. You know, like relax, like this is it. You know, you're already doing it, that you're already here. So you might as well enjoy it. Right? Like we might as well have fun along the way, have fun in the process, because every single step is it, right? Every step is technically the top of the mountain, and the top of the mountain, that culmination point that we live for, it's on the horizon. It's not meant to be lived in. It's meant to pull us forward. And it's beautiful in how it does its job pulling us forward. And it's important to realize, when are we taking it too far? When are we punishing ourselves instead of enjoying the process along the way? This is the gift, I believe, of that Capricorn South Node, or anybody else who has that dominant Capricorn energy. And next up, we are going to jump into the individual chapters from the Astrology from the Soul book by Jan Spiller. You know I love this. Page 154 in the Cancer North Node chapter, you will find the list of tendencies to leave behind. Number 1, needing to control everything and everyone. I feel you, like these lists, they can feel like you're attacking me. Like, why are you writing this about my life? Yeah, so you're in the right place if you can resonate with that. And if you can't resonate with that, then I would highly encourage you to check out like the other end of the spectrum, where we look at the Cancer shadow. And like what happens when you take the Cancer shadow too far is that you lose track of the fact that you are responsible for your life. And that's the thing that Capricorn energy has, is like extreme deep responsibility for like, I know I have control. I know I can build. I know I can do. I know I can be. I know I can make it happen. I can get it done. I know I have control. I have a span of control. I know that. And so that brilliance, we are going to work with that through the rest of this video. Before we dive in though, I do want to take just a second and talk about the membership side of this channel. And there is a button at the bottom of this video. Click join to learn more about what I'm going to talk about, or you can skip to the next chapter. Do you, whatever works for you. But this is a space that I have created with my Capricorn energy that feels like, again, like what are you painting on that screen? What is the world that you are building? And what carrot are you dangling in front of yourself? And for me, the world that I'm building is a world where I have this level of safety that at this time is mostly in my imagination and not as much in my like life, like in my actual relationships, in my 3D physical reality, the people that I come into contact with when I go out into the world and expose myself to the world. There are far more doubters, haters, misunderstanders. Like, these are the people that I mostly interact with. The people who get it, who are like my soul tribe kind of thing, like we don't interact in my 3D physical life. Like we interact like up here in this esoteric, like 5D kind of level where we connect through time and space. Like we're not really sharing physical space, which is fine. It gave me the idea though of like, what if I built a whole fort like up in this imagined level of safety? And so the join button below will take you to these membership levels. There are 2 of them. The first one, the leading edge, is members only videos. The second one, the Sacred Circle Experience, are Zooms every other week as we follow the lunar cycle, the new moon and the full moon, and have that community space to each feel our own individual sacred experience. Right? Like we are each an individual extension of source energy, and I am here for the variety and the diversity of what that looks like in human form, and to play the role of sacred witness for each other, right? Like we don't have each other's answers. We don't control each other. We cheer for each other. We celebrate how, right, you moved from base camp 1 to base camp 2. Fucking A, man. Like there's 57 more base camps before we reach the top, but like you went from 1 to 2. Oh my God. Like let's have some of that. Let's have some cheering each other on every other week in this community experience where, again, we can show up and check in on our sacred experience, our sacred evolutionary journey, that no one else on earth is living this particular thread of evolution besides me. I am responsible for my thread of evolution. You are responsible for your thread of evolution. I see this space, this community space, as like a show up and like report like what's going on in your thread of evolution. You know, like how have you like climbed towards your vision? How have you clarified your vision? How did you backslide, and what awesomeness did that give you? You know, that now I'm not just going up the mountain with this. When I backslid, I also found this thing that now I get to go up the mountain with this thing. Like I claimed that. Like, how are you maximizing your personal thread of evolution? I am fucking here for it. Okay, so if you're here for it, I cannot recommend enough that higher tier, which I priced both of them to a little bit discourage, a little bit like you gotta want to be there. You gotta put a little skin in the game. You gotta show that you're intentional about doing what it is that we're describing is happening in this space. And what I think is the sifting and sorting of like, you know, if you hear about this offer and you go look at the price and that's a monthly price and you calculate all of that, you feel all of that inside your system and it feels like hell fucking yes, like I am there. Like when do we start? Like how soon can we, is tomorrow too soon? Like, you know, if that's how you feel, join, sign up. I am here for it. And if you look at it and you're like, ouch, really? Like you think it's worth that? Then it's not for you. And like, dude, I'm cool with that too. If you want to keep watching the videos, like supporting me in this kind of way where you're watching the channel, you're liking the video, you're subscribing to the channel, you're interacting with the content to like push it out into the algorithm so that other people can find it too. There's so many different ways where you can support the work that we're doing here, where I do bring a lot to the channel for free, but there are these other spaces where I am carving out these other spaces where I am bringing my vision of this other world. I am carving out a space in the 3D for it to exist. Thank you for being here. I genuinely appreciate and resonate with the curiosity that it would take to be sitting through a video like this. And now back to the next chapter. Okay, so let's dive into the Capricorn shadow of needing to control everything and everyone. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff that you gotta control. And, you know, like we do here in the Mermaid Portal, this is why we do this, because it feels so good to, first and foremost, let's appreciate the fact that this shadow is in the house, okay? Like that's step number one, is like, let's take a second and appreciate the controlling nature that as a Capricorn South Node, or as somebody who, you know, has heavy Capricorn energy, like we've been talking about in the intro. I also listed a list of placements in the description box of like, in addition to Capricorn South Node, you may also resonate with this message if, and there's a bunch of different ideas of ways that this shadow could creep its way into your day-to-day life experience. So all of that to kind of open it up as far as like, there's a lot of these individual looks at like the 12 different shadows in the playlist for each of the North Nodes below. So like, feel free to like dive into any of the shadows that are resonating with you at this time. Kind of let your intuition guide you to what feels like the best medicine for your soul at this time. That's my own personal needing to control everything and everyone is like, I wish that you would feel good. You know, like if I could control you into feeling good, I would do it. But it really doesn't work like that. So I try to control myself into feeling good and control what is within my control. This is a very interesting concept that I have been thinking about a lot lately. And then the very first Capricorn shadow is about control. And the concept I've been thinking about is span of control. Like each of us as an individual being, as the creator of our reality, each of us has our own span of control, right? Where there is in the 3D, there are the things that are within our control. This is our span of control. And then there are things that are outside of our control. That is not within our span of control. And the reason I'm thinking about this so heavily lately is because there is a very real, very lethargic part of me that just feels like I just don't have the energy. I literally do not have the energy, the resources, the capacity to care about what is not under my control. You know, like, especially when my span of control has so much within it. There's so much that is in my control. And every moment I spend thinking about, working on, worrying about whatever, something that is not inside my span of control, I'm spending resources and not really doing anything, because there is literally no control outside of ourselves, right? Like, we cannot control other people, but how do we appreciate this needing to control everything and everyone? It's through that span of control. And the fact that you have this shadow, I'm assuming at this point, because you're still listening, hopefully that means you're resonating, or you love someone who has this shadow and you're trying to understand them. The reason that this is a good thing to have is because Capricorn is one of the cardinal signs, one of the 4 cardinal modalities where it is all about action. It's all about, what can you start from scratch? What can you, like, on a blank slate, make it not blank anymore, right? Like, what can you create? What can you start? What can you begin? What seeds can you put in the ground that are gonna blossom into fruit trees that yield harvests for years and years and years to come? Like, how are you investing your focus, and what are you turning your personal life force energy? What are you turning it into as far as what you're starting in the world? This is cardinal energy, and Capricorn, the cardinal earth sign, it's also the last of the cardinal signs. It's like, this is where we realize in the physical what is truly possible when you will fully exercise your control. This guy, he's like wanting to talk to you. Yeah, like, what is fully within your control? Like, what is under your span of control, you know, and to be the CEO of that. Okay. And the reason that this is awesome, that I don't need to convince you to take control, is because, like, you know, for us to be the empowered creator of our own reality, we have to take control. We have to take responsibility, which is a synonym for the word control, you know, like this needing to control everything and everyone. Another way to say that is needing to be responsible for everything and everyone. And that is a great place to kind of open it up a little bit into this next part of the Mermaid Portal Experience, where first we try to love that, you know, the fact that you have this like drive to control, like, dude, like, all you got to do is figure out how to channel that drive into what's in your span of control, and you've got like a freaking gold mine that never stops running. So, like, I'm not trying to console you on your shadows. Like, congratulations on the mastery that says, like, I am capable of controlling a lot. I am capable of affecting big change, big outcomes in the 3D. Like, I can focus on it for as long as it takes, and I can build a monstrosity that other people told me was impossible. And how do you do that? You take responsibility for the process and you hike your ass up the mountain, right? You strap the stuff to your back and you get to climb it. Like, it's an efforting, it's a climb. It's a, like, to be responsible is to carry like the weight of the world on your shoulders. Sometimes it feels like, I'm sure, but that knowing of your effectiveness, that like, I know I can take the reins and make shit happen. Like, again, that is the side that is your superpower. So the rest of this conversation in this chapter is going to be about how to relate to that superpower in an empowered way, while also kind of keeping an eye on the shadow side, which is to say, like, where do we take it too far to where it's now beginning to cause harm to myself and to others for me to engage with it like this. Because there's a time and a place for you to let this pony out of the stable, and there's a particular way, there's a gracefulness with which you are capable of controlling situations and people and groups. And I mean, some may call it manipulative, but you could call it creating a magical experience for everyone involved, you know, because you are controlling, you're putting the pieces into it that you want to be felt, that you want to be experienced. Like, it's a very creative energy, Capricorn, like the kind of the hidden visionary, the hidden artist, like taking what is inside your mind, like what idea, what frequency, what current of energy and love is flowing through your body, and then creating something in the physical that gets to light up other people. You know, like in this way, there's some overlap a little bit with Leo energy, but it is quite a bit different than that as far as like the long-term vision of like something that you would be willing to sign up for, even though like the process of creating it was like, all right, you got to spend like at least 3 or 4 hours every week for the next 6 years. Are you in? Do you want to do it? Like, this is a very Capricornian kind of creation. Like, it's not about like, let me spend 2 hours painting this picture because that's what's fun for me. That's more of a Leo style creation. A Capricorn creation involves commitment, involves like repetition, and like, I'm going to do the things to like get myself into this place. And like one example that I have for myself is live streaming. I had tried to live stream just a couple of times and found it to be incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. And at the same time, kind of concurrently, separate but happening at the same time, I was really, really loving kind of really getting into studying the transits in astrology, like keeping up with where the planets were and what does the energetic weather feel like at this time. Like that was like really something I was enjoying in my personal time. And so all of that collided into this intention of like, I am going to have a Friday live stream every Friday for like at least a year. You know, like, let's just see what happens. And in like a year of doing like 50 of these things, like, let's see if it's still awkward. And that was one of the many steps like that one where I signed up for something because I wanted to build a sense of confidence. I wanted to build a sense of efficacy that like I could press start live and like let it count down and like be there and like go and then do the thing. No editing, no take backs. Like, people are there, they're here, they're telling you stuff in the chat if you have the chat open. Like, it was a lot of energy to juggle. It felt like juggling. That's a great analogy for it. Yeah. So because it felt so daunting and challenging, I wanted to be better at it. So I signed up for creating a Friday live stream where I would talk about the transits, like what are the main transits going on this week, and come back next Friday, do it again, come back the Friday after, do it again. And that commitment to doing that every Friday, it turned into so much more than what I could have thought, as far as like, that was really the beginning of me understanding what I even want my creative process to be. You know, like needing to control everything and everyone. Like, within my span of control, I do want to exercise control over everything and everyone that is like truly under my control. There are situations and jobs and like engagements, like there are places in reality where it is your job to control another person. Like, that exists, and it's called a manager, it's called the boss, it's called the owner of the company, it's called the, you know, the person who is responsible for real, the person who's like, you know, life's work and bankruptcy and like their skin is in the game. You know, they are responsible, therefore they are having control. and having that control goes along with that job. So there are times where people are under our control. And that is a responsibility to never take lightly, and to realize that like how we act in those positions of leadership matter a lot, because there are people looking up to us. There are people like waiting to hear that they're doing a good job for us, so who we are as a leader matters a lot when we are like taking on that responsibility of being in charge, having control over other people. But I want to talk even more about this span of control and like what is under your control, because namely, you are under your control. And very, very similar to how, if I was going to talk to the Sagittarius shadow, and I have in the Sagittarius videos, if you want to watch like the Gemini North Node playlist and catch some of the Sagittarius South Node, Sagittarius shadow conversations, it sounds a lot like this, where it's like you have a very, very, very strong sense of what is right and what should happen. And if you were in those shoes, here's what I would do. And you can see the path so clearly. And in your own life, act on that, activate on it, like everything, every path that you can see for the character that is you to like move forward in this way. You have an idea, you see, I could bring it to life like this, do it every single time. Like that is what is in your span of control, is like the distance between the ideas that you're having inside of yourself and what you are effectively bringing to life in the 3D. Okay, the space between your letting yourself create whatever creation is flowing through you, whatever vision you can see, even if that vision is like, I want to make people happy. I want to make people happy. And then your idea is to like spend the afternoon like putting together this most beautiful gift basket of like a journal that you pick out specifically for the person, and a candle that you pick out specifically for the person, and a fun pen that is their favorite color, and on and on and on. And then you wrap it in like just such beautiful, like, and giving it to them and watching it light up their world. And as they look at each piece, watching the glow coming out of them, like, this is within your control, not them lighting up, but you taking your idea and bringing it to fruition, and at least giving it the chance to light somebody up. And like the earth energy part of it too is like that wisdom of like, you can if you want, but I personally choose not to spend a whole lot of time throwing my seeds into like a paved parking lot. Like that's not fertile ground. You know what I mean? Like in the earth energy realm, it's like we have as much energy as we have, and there are much more fertile places to plant those seeds than some other places that you could plant the seeds. Like you could make a gift for your mom, but if there's baggage, if there's history, if there's like, just all of these things, it's like, really, what are you getting into? What are you creating? And what are you wanting to control here? Because again, as we think about what is under your span of control, your time is under your span of control, that you are under your span of control. That is the main and really only thing. We can add some arms and legs onto that conversation, but like nobody else, nothing else is under our control other than like, what are you personally going to choose to use your hours today to do? Like, what are you going to do? And that's under your control. And it is incredible what we are capable of in such a short time when we will let everything else go and focus into the pure flow of like what you can see, the way that you can see to get there, and then just fucking go there. Like I feel like where Capricorn, like where this shadow gets a little bit hung up as far as like how do you take it too far, needing to control everything and everyone, is like the second it steps outside of ourselves, the second it's like it's not enough for you to go where you can see you can go, you have to take other people with you. You need to go get them, take them hostage, and bring them up the mountain with you. Like that's where we're getting into dicey territory, like we're stepping on the toes of sovereignty of others. We're not trusting them to create their own reality, to be their own CEO of their own span of control. But here's the thing that, is, I can't really feel it in Capricorn so much as like more Taurus energy to like pull in this other earth sign. It's like, imagine you're off doing something in your house and there's a person that you love in the house. You don't really know what they're doing, but you're keeping yourself entertained. You're doing all the things, playing with your toys. And all of a sudden you catch this waft of, what is that smell? What is that smell? Oh my God, that smells amazing. That smells delicious. And you get up from what you're doing and you go towards the smell because that smells so good. Or, like you hear a sound and it's like, wait, that music is so cool. Like, what is that? And you move towards the thing because like I can kind of sense it a little bit and it's like alluring. It feels good. It's magnetizing me to it. And that is the true span of control, is that when you will let go of being the boss of anything outside of yourself, when you will just focus into the pure fun of doing what it is that you want to be doing, right? Like, it's like the aroma coming off of it is like mouth-wateringly tantalizing, and other people can't help but want to gravitate towards what you're doing. So at that point, though, it's like, imagine this, where the person is the loved one is in the kitchen making something and it's smelling, and so you go out there and you're loving what they're doing and now you're engaging and all because they just did what they wanted to do and made the thing and it smells delicious, and so here I come. Well, imagine there's another loved one that's a family member that's often in the house, but today, like, they don't come to the kitchen. They don't respond to the beautiful thing that I made, that smells so heavenly. They didn't come. And it's like, well, they weren't in the house today. They weren't available for that today. They were off doing something else. They were off exercising their span of control, going after whatever it was that they felt like they needed to be doing at the time. They were doing the same thing. They were out there making something that felt good to them, attracting through their heavenly aroma whoever was wanting to receive what it was that they were offering at that time. So it really is beautiful to relinquish like the literal weight of everything outside your span of control, and to, again, I've talked at length with the Fire South nodes about their selfishness, their self-centeredness, self-righteousness, like all of these things that are so shadowy, they're so rejectable by, culture, society, whatever. And with you guys, it's like this controlling behavior, this like need to control. And like, I have to say the same thing is like, you have to find a place in your world where you are 100% the boss of all the things. Like, you have to do that. You have to find a place in your world to exercise that powerful drive of controlling, and so that's where crafting can be nice. Having your own creative outlet of some kind, woodworking, all kinds of things, right? Like anything where you can have an idea and bring it to life without another person being involved. Like, that's really the key, is like, how can you be 100% the boss of all the things? You are the only person in the situation, and that's a beautiful thing, okay? So like, lots of solitude, lots of solo endeavors, lots of moments of seeking your own counsel. What do you think? What do you think we should do? How would you take control of this situation? Like, forget about everybody else. What is coming natural to you? And like, let that come up and come out. And this is a beautiful story to tack in here too. is like for a couple years now, pretty much ever since I started doing the individual coaching sessions where I would sit with somebody on Zoom and they would, express, and I would do my best to hold space and reflect and try to offer something that might be soothing to wherever they were. And often advice would come out of my mouth, and there were always mixed reviews on like, is the person receptive to that advice or not? And receptive, like, what does that mean? Is the person able to see the value in what I'm giving them or not? And sometimes they were, and sometimes they were not. And again, like mixed reviews. But through all of that, it was incredible, especially when I was doing kind of more sessions more regularly. That was when I realized that we are the most powerful recipient of our own advice. So like how we would coach somebody else, like in their situation, we're like, oh, you should just totally do this. It's like every single time you want to give advice to someone, every single time you want to take control of something that is out there, outside your span of control, take your own advice, take your own control, that own powerful drive, and put it into something, like push it into something that is yours, that belongs to you, that belongs to your control. Like, this is where I get to be the dominant one. I am in control of this. And then, like this the point of all of this, as far as like, why do we spend so much time contemplating this, is so that we can get to this point where it is truly a matter of being in a situation in the present moment, as that is constantly fluid and changing, right? That Cancer end, and realizing, is this a spot where I am meant to be in control? Is this particular thing within my span of control? AKA, does it have to do with how I am going to spend my time? That is what is within my span of control. Or is it about how other people are spending their time? Because that is not within our span of control, right? That is not something that belongs to us, that belongs to them. So when we want to consult, when we want to give advice, when we want to start sentences with you should do this, it's like maybe the other person really does need to hear that. And if you make it all the way to telling them, if you make it all the way to like taking control and like giving them your advice, then probably on some level they did need to hear it, whether they react positively or negatively. Like, that's going to be on you as far as what you're ready for that day. But it's like every single one of them, no matter how they react, you can do yourself a favor by grabbing back that advice and putting it in your span of control and being like, how would the CEO of my experience implement this thing? Because that is gold. That is gold. Like, giving advice to another person, like what you want to take control of over another person, is a great place to start as far as like what is begging for your own leadership inside of yourself, right? Like implementing your own advice, implementing your own control over yourself, like the security that comes from knowing where and what is under your span of control. And the other piece from that lets you be more free in general is that when you know what is in your span of control, aka yourself, you know that you are under your own control, you are far less likely to fall for anybody else's bullshit, anybody else's nonsense about like they are trying to like put their hooks into you and take control of you and get you to do things for them. They're wanting to like pull you over here to the dark side and like, here, let me be in control of you. Let me have your life. Let me be in charge of your time. Like, I would argue that like Capricorn South Nodes, like, you guys are here to show us what it looks like to be immune to like mind control tactics, like, and you do that because you are so fully under your own fucking control. And you would never in a million years try to take control of another person because you would never in a million years want anybody to have control of you. So you give it to yourself in full, you give it to everybody else in full, and as just in doing that, just in giving yourself permission to be under your own control, other people are smelling that and they are coming closer like, what are you doing? You smell amazing. You smell incredible. Can I come over here? Can I come sit in your awesomeness? Can I come to your kitchen and eat one of those muffins? Like, you have something that I want, you know? And like, I think the Capricorn South Node, the Capricorn shadow, like wants control. Like, I mean, and if we're really being like full on blunt here, wants control of the group, wants control of the people, you know, like, I just like you, this is one of the rare places in the zodiac where you are willing and able to take charge of a bunch of other people. And like, you got to just stop and appreciate the cojones that it takes to carry the responsibility of being in charge of other people. You know, like if you're doing that right, with great power comes great responsibility. And responsibility, I'm sure you know, is heavy. So learning how to give your control as a gift to yourself, and in the process of doing that, turn into a role model of like what it looks like for other people to take control and responsibility for themselves and milk the riches out of holding the reins of their span of control. Like, can you feel my passion? Can you feel my passion? I was really thinking these last like few weeks in the in-between of like not making any of these Mermaid Portal episodes. Like, I missed that. Like, how do I get back there? And it's so funny because how I got back here was like, I saw somebody whose life had kind of like really hit a turning point and kind of blown up a little bit over this Capricorn shadow. And it hurt her a lot because she was the common denominator. You know, she's over there trying to be in charge of like everybody and everything, and it did not work out for her in this area of her life. And it truly was like an organic, like her pain at, she had caused it, like she had this pattern and it had led to this, like me wanting to love and soothe. Number one, the urge to control, that like it's powerful that you have the ability to recognize the power of you picking up the reins and making shit happen. So like, can't say that enough. And that there are times where, right, like there's stuff that like you're not meant to pick up those reins, even if like, even if the other person is like not holding their reins. So you're like, hey, nobody's holding those reins. Like, I'll hold those reins. Or even if the other person's like, here, please hold the reins for me of my life, right? Like, please be responsible for me and my choices. And it's like, you can take on that liability if you would like to. But at the end of the day, the individual whose life it is, like they are the one with their life to lose. They are the one with their time to lose. They are the one that will have to bear the consequences of whatever unfolds. And so holding responsibility for trying to control anything outside of yourself is to say that you are going to make an influence onto something that you don't have to have consequences for. You know, like, and at that point, there is a very real ethical question as far as like, even if you could control the situation, should you? So how did I get back into the Mermaid Portal of like healing these shadows? I was so ready to dump love onto Capricorn energy, the archetype of Capricorn, the ability to take huge responsibility and put it on your shoulders and you carry it. It's fucking impressive. It's impressive. And just like any of the other shadows, it can bite your ass if you really overdo it. So I really, really, really hope that this was helpful in terms of purging a little bit your relationship with your need to control, your drive to control, your drive to be in charge, and that hopefully this opened up some space around like where can you situate that in your life and give it space to exist, and recognize when it's time to put it back in the toolbox and shut the door. Pick out something else for this moment because this is not under my span of control. Like I'm not in my controlling mode because we're talking about you right now. This is not my deal. I am not responsible for your life. You are. Like, I can only ask you questions. I can only be curious about what you're doing over there. And if you want to tell me about your project, if you want to tell me about your life, like, I love listening. I love details. I love hearing about the context of like what's going on. But like, I can't give you the answer. I'm not in charge of you, right? You are. So I love this particular piece that I have found through doing my individual coaching sessions around being an example of being so in control of myself that I would never dream of trying to control another person. And again, I hope this has been helpful. If it has, take a second, like the video, leave a comment down below, like what really moved inside of you. What's a little nuggie that you're going to like put in your pocket and take with you on down the road? Would love to hear your reflections in the comments. Not to mention that definitely pushes the content out into the algorithm and lets other people find this magnificence. So thank you for everything you are doing. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. So I'm super excited to jump into the next one that we're going to cover, which is the compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation. And I only smile and chuckle and a little bit giggle because I recognize this in myself so strongly. So let's just start with that, with like, if you are resonating with this list, or especially this one, like you've come to the right place, because in the Mermaid Portal, what we are going to do is appreciate, find a spot, and then build a nice, loving little guardrail around this tendency, because it is never about amputating anything off of our personality. We just need to find a way to accept it for what it is and figure out when is it time to get that tool out of the toolbox and use it because it's great, and when is it not time to use that. Okay, because like I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a time and a place for the compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation. Because number one, can you imagine the courage? Also just like the blind confidence of like, I think with a Capricorn especially, it's like just a persistence of knowing that like, dude, I persist until I get there. So of course I'm going to get there. So I don't need to fully understand the situation to take charge of it because I know we're going to get there. And like that confidence is, I mean, you can see like who has that confidence within themselves, in themselves, like confidence of self, and who doesn't. And there's something to be said about the strength of possessing such a tendency that like, again, it's like you're more on the end of like needing to rein in your power versus like pulling your power up out of yourself that a lot of the other shadows are working on, namely the Cancer shadow. So like the opposite of what we're talking about here, where their passivity, in the Cancer shadow side, the passivity and the like unwillingness to take charge, like to their own detriment. Like that's, the opposite of that. And so for this one though, it's like, I think that really paints the picture of the power that is inherent inside this shadow and why there's a time and a place, right? Because let me tell you what this would take, like compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation. To fully understand the situation, let's just focus in on that part real quick, because how much time do you think would it take to fully understand the situation? Like, I'm thinking months to years to like study the situation and fully understand it. Okay, so like, what the fuck, like who's leading us while we're studying the situation? Okay, and that's that's like a real question, you know? So again, it's like compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation. Part of that is because you know the understanding will naturally unfold over time, that there's really no reason to sit around and wait to take charge until you understand, because so much time is gonna lapse in the middle of that like potentially we could have been making some other moves if there was somebody like really minding the leadership, like minding the crow's nest of like, really, where are we going? What's in the way? Where are we trying to get to? Like, there are other energies that, you know, have more of a reticence as far as like, I'm not going to take action until I fully understand the situation. Like the Libra shadow comes to mind, as far as Libra is known for their ability to see every single side of the situation. They've got like every single facet totally covered, totally studied. It takes a lot of time. And so in the Libra shadow conversation, wherever they're talking about analysis paralysis and how you can spend so much time understanding the situation that like literally nothing ever happens. And Capricorn is an earth sign. So if nothing is happening, Earth is getting real nervous because, you know, the members of the tribe, they got to eat. So maybe it's not exactly the most important thing that I understand the situation completely, because that's going to take a lot of time. It's going to happen organically, naturally as we go. We're going to learn and adapt. Capricorn is very willing to do all of that. Like the perseverance, the persistence of Capricorn says that we are going to get where we're going no matter what. So really, as far as putting this one in its spot, giving this one a place to be, is to realize like, you know, what are the time constraints on the situation? Like basically that's all it comes down to. Capricorn ruled by Saturn, Saturn being the time lord, the timekeeper, the energy that gives us this illusion of this 3D linear time. Only in the 3D do we have this illusion of linear time, and that is Saturn's doing. It's so that the pieces can weave themselves together so freaking brilliantly. But like, here's the deal. It's like, if it's an urgent situation, like right here, right now, today, we need to make a move. We need somebody to like take charge, AKA like make a decision, probably make a hard decision. And right, like you don't have time to fully understand the situation. And in that moment, you guys, Capricorn South Node, Capricorn shadow havers, where you're just so intense in your Capricorn brilliance that we're over here trying to get you to just like rein it in just even 1% and like direct it, you know, like practice directing it a little bit more, those 1 degree turns of like, where can I really channel this so that it's like a home run? And where, if I channel it like that, it's likely to blow up in your face, and you're welcome to do whatever you want. But like, I'm just here trying to shine a light. In the Mermaid Portal, we're lighting up the shadow in a loving, accepting way that hopefully can create some balance where there is acceptance and there's less pushing against what is, because fighting with nature isn't gonna work. We're not gonna win. So if we, you know, I'm the collective we, the havers of this compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation, like, yeah, maybe you jump the gun sometimes, and those situations would be the ones where there's not as much of a time constraint as maybe like the shadow of this would feel like there is always that time constraint. Okay, like a little bit too eager to be like, oh no, this urgent, so I need to take charge, I need to grab the reins. Like, this is where we're getting into the how do we take it too far kind of thing. And really it is about the discernment between, is it urgent and I must take control? Because if so, in those moments, I mean, people crave leadership in a crisis, and your willingness to not need to understand the situation, to like be a figure of a decision maker and a looker at the things and a decider of like, this is our best path forward given the limited information that we have at this time. You know, somebody who's willing to wear those consequences is of value to society. So please, like, direct it into places where there is true urgency, there is true crisis, there is true imminent danger, imminent, being the key word. If danger is lurking, okay, danger is lurking, that is not a time to take control. That is a time to like step more into our Scorpio side and study the situation, into our Libra side and talk to other people and like really study the situation and understand the situation. Like what is really going on here? Okay. Like if it's not urgent, then it should be studied, not controlled. So like that's where I'm going to say like compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation. Like when do you get that tool out of the toolbox is when it's friggin' urgent. We don't have time to understand the situation. And just know that the shadow that this is mistaking a non-urgent situation for an urgent one. Okay, so like that's really what needs to be studied within the self in terms of this shadow is like when are you a little bit of like an adrenaline junkie, a little bit of like a, you know, needing for there to be a crisis so that you can shine kind of thing. And like, again, I'm only able to channel something like that because I have a lived experience from when I was like 20-ish. And it was rough of like, my idea of leadership was just to be in control of everything. And when it's a non-urgent situation, really what we're missing when we say like we're not fully understanding the situation, like what takes time to understand is the emotional aspect of the situation. What takes time to get acquainted with and to study the situation as far as understanding the chemistry of the factors that are causing whatever it is that is the danger, right? Like there's a reason, there's a root cause. And so controlling the danger is like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound anyway, right? Like, and that's really all our taking charge and offering our control in the crisis situations. That's really all it ever is anyway. It's a way to make other people feel better. Right? They feel like, oh, you've got it covered. You're in charge. And like on the inside, you know that you don't know. You don't know shit. Like you don't know anything. You're just willing to be in charge. You know, like that's a service you're willing to provide to humanity. And it's kind of a thankless job. But then again, like most jobs are kind of thankless, you know, like unless we are somebody who is personally capable of doing that job, most likely we don't recognize the real finesse and the real service, the real weight of the job that is whatever it is that we don't know. We've never stood inside of it, right? But like if you're the person who takes charge, you know the weight of responsibility. You know how much you send internally so that you don't worry anybody else. You know, you're like a shock absorber for other people to take their worry, take their fear, and be in charge, to present a calm, stoic, I've got this. We're going to the top of the mountain. You know, I hear that you're worried. I do. And I hear that you sense that there are limitations. And please hear me when I say I am right there with you, right? Like, I feel like that's the best thing you can tell somebody in that moment is like, I understand those worries because I'm having them as well. And the limitations that you feel so bound up in, please know that I am wearing them as well. Like yes, I hear you. I hear you. And in the stoicism of letting them know that like I'm wearing those same weights and look at, we're going to the top of the mountain. Okay? Can you come with me? Can you go just a little bit more and then we'll stop for a rest and we'll warm back up and then we'll go again? Like I know the weight, the emotional weight that you're carrying because I'm carrying it too. And I'm pushing forward anyway. You know, like again, it's a service. It's a service to the people around you to be the one who's willing to take the hit of fear and to put back out calm. You know, this is something that I would say like heavy Taurus and heavy Capricorn are both really good at this, of like taking the hit of other people's emotional distress. Like if you're going to fully understand the situation, you're going to dive into the people's emotions, the people's perspectives, the people's motivations, the people's needs, the people's on and on and on and on and on. And the thing that the earth energy, like, it's a thankless job, like, you know, gets such a bad rap for being so emotionally cut off. The thing about it is like, if we don't eat, we're not going to survive long enough to understand the situation fully. So please allow us to set to the side all of that, because the emotions and the perspectives and the motivations and the needs and the self-actualization and the psychology and the, you know, like, come on now, we got to eat. We need to make sure that there's food. Okay. And like, I'm willing to ignore your tears, because truly this harvest is going to feed, you know, hundreds or thousands of people. So like, I know you're upset, but we're still going to the top of the mountain. You know, like, we're doing what needs to be done, and we're willing to give up the intimacy that comes from understanding the situation, the intimacy that comes from stepping inside somebody else's shoes and understanding where they're coming from, their perspective. Like, it's such a sacrifice. But then again, all of the signs are. That's why we are all 12 of them, right? Nobody is only one of the 12 zodiac archetypes. We are all containing a multitude of these facets, because all of us, under the right circumstances, can take charge of a situation. Every single person. And someone with like a Capricorn South Node or this heavy Capricorn energy, it's like, that's just, you know, more normal for you. That like, that's something that happens so often. It's almost like you're overdosing on taking control a little too frequently. So we're talking about, how do we pull that back in? Again, on the flip side of these conversations, when we're in the Libra South Node conversation, talking about analysis paralysis, when we're talking about Scorpio South Node, as far as like the like just endless contemplation of the emotions at play, like the motivations at play, the complexities of the situation. Like, you can swim in that shit until the cows come home, which is to say never. They're happy out there eating their grass. So like, there are all of these other shadows where we're talking about, like, how do you take control just a little bit more often? And in this conversation, it's just the opposite. And that is because, like, in time, in divine timing for each one of us in our soul's evolutionary journey, it is time to focus on this one. And then at a different time, it is time to focus on this one. And at a different time, it is time to focus on this one, because we are all of them. So as you take in this information and like, it's right time to hear this, just know that, like, you know, I like to think of my YouTube, like, homepage as like an oracle, as far as like serving up like divinely timed messages for me. So be aware of, like, anytime any of the other shadow videos are kind of like stalking you, like they just keep showing up in your feed, like I would think there's something in there for you. But that is my wantingness and my willingness to connect everything together. So see, like, that's that Pisces shadow of, like, I will see connections even if, like, they're truly not there. Like, I could delude myself into thinking that, like, there's interconnections between every single thing, like electricity, like, coming off. Anyways, we've lost the plot. So we are in the chapter of the compulsion to take charge without fully understanding the situation. The other piece that I wanted to add on to this is that, you know, again, we're in Earth shadow territory where, you know, the reason that the Earth shadow exists is because of the weight of the pressure of having to feed the tribe. Like, I'm going to come back to that again, because it is a heavy responsibility to be the one who makes sure that they're going to eat and live. You know, like, your people dying of starvation is a really bad look for a leader. So, like, you know, forgive us for not getting caught in the web of distractions that the game of life is set to provide, right? Like, again, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, And Saturn is that daily devotional work, that work that we came to. Like every day I take these bricks, whatever, I'm building, and I stack another few bricks. Like today I had time to stack 7 bricks onto this wall, and tomorrow I only had time to, or yesterday I only had time to stack 2 bricks, and the day before that I did 5, and the day before that I did 12, and the day before that I did none, and the day before that, and then 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of doing that. What do you have there? At the end of your life, when you are no longer physically present, what is left behind? Those bricks, they're stacked. That wall that you built, that miles long creation that it takes years for a new person who just comes to it to move along it and really see the whole thing. And you built that, and you're not here anymore, right? You're done. Your time is over. Saturn, time, it begins and it ends. There's a line between with a start and a finish, period. You only get how much you get. So the real mastery of Saturn is in this immunity to the web of distractions that are out there, that are hey, come look at this thing. Hey, come look at this thing. Hey, spend your energy over here. Hey, put your energy over here. Hey, let your energy get sucked into this thing. And Capricorn South Node is no, I'm going to the top of the mountain. So again, I love the focus of this Earth South Node, this Capricorn South Node, of being so focused on what is actually important, for our survival. None of the rest of it matters if there's not this. And I refuse to be distracted by this stuff because I'm making sure that this is here. And that's what I want to say as far as every single one of these tendencies to leave behind, I think, are a superpower of the Cancer North Node, where this is what you're here to bring. You're here to help and show other people, when is it time to take charge? How do you take charge? How do you grab up the reins and shut out the distractions that are irrelevant to you doing what you need to do? How do you do that? You guys are masters at it, to the point where we're over here you're oblong in that direction, you're overdosing in that direction, and we're pulling it back. But when you open up into understanding the situation fully, meaning really diving into the emotions that are present and what is really happening here, because truly, when we think about it from a non-physical perspective, when we think about it from a spiritual, interconnected, eternal timeline kind of way, we are all truly in this together, and we are really evolving mass consciousness in this eternal game of leapfrog, where we're handing off the baton generation to generation to generation, and we all play our part in time, right? And so what is really happening here is a really good question to ponder, as far as helping to tune into the non-urgency, helping to tune into the emotions of the people that are present, especially the people that you really love, right? If this was a Libra North Node conversation, where, the North Node is pointed at Libra, I would say it's more talking to lots of different kinds of people, many different people, many collaborators. And because it's the Cancer North Node that we're focused on and that we're talking about here, that's really the people who feel home to you, those people's emotions are your top priority. And recognize, what are we really doing here, as far as Earth School is a place to heal. It's a place to learn. It's a place to get to manifest your visions and like bring shit to life that didn't exist before. Like, hello, Capricorn. Like, you get to build your wall. You get to do that. And like, the only way that you can build the wall is if you take charge and you go get the bricks and you go back to the site and you take the brick and you put down the stuff and you put the brick there, and then you get the next stuff and you put that there and you get the next brick. And like, the only way your wall ever gets built, the only way your daily devotional work ever gets done is if you take charge and make it happen. And so this ability that you have of making things happen, that like you do what needs done, like that is really ultimately the gift that you can give to collective consciousness, is to teach the rest of us like the magic and the wisdom of like, how do you decide when you come alive and take charge, and how do you decide when you stay dormant and rest and conserve your resources? Because that's really one of the things that Capricorn is best at, is like they are very unlikely to be throwing more resources at a sunk endeavor. Like, no, that thing is dead and I refuse to give it my water, like Capricorn is not going to do that. They're very sharp on like, am I investing my resources in a place where it's helping me to get closer to the top of the mountain? Like, very single focused. I love the focus of Capricorn. Love it, love it, love it. So you got to think too that like the only time that you're really like compulsively taking charge is when you feel like you have the resources that will help advance the situation that you're witnessing, right? So like there's a confidence, a knowingness of what you're bringing to the situation that I think deserves to be the cherry on top, the high note that we end this chapter on. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to this chapter. Take a second, like the video if you haven't yet. Check out the description box. There's lots of yummy goodies in there. And without further ado, let's head on to the next one. So next we'll look at the tendency to leave behind, ignoring the process, being too focused on the goal. Ignoring the process, being too focused on the goal. And if you listen to the chapter just before, that was kind of where we ended that contemplation, was with, the earth signs are responsible for feeding the tribe. So when we're over here talking about being too focused on the goal, well, like, what if the goal is like feeding the people, like making sure that the people like have this steady foundation for a quality of life that is something somewhere above starvation, like what if that's the goal and then you're too overly focused on it? Like, I think that's where that shadow comes from, is like, again, the weight of the responsibility of having to take care of the resources of the tribe, having to provide for the tribe. It's heavy. And so we can get into this like hyper controlling place, where we are fixated on must provide. It's very singularly focused. I mentioned that in the last video, or in the last chapter as well. But again, very similar to how we loved the last one, it's like how beautiful that someone would be so dedicated, like not deterred, like ignoring the process. Like what I see in that, and like living with it myself, and like from other people who I feel like are like that, where like they just like have no space or attention for like the nitty gritty step by step of like, how are we actually going to get there? They're like, must get there. And like, it's just a little bit annoying when you're the one that is trying to deal with like the nitty gritty of like how to get there. But again, it's like, imagine being so discerning in like being so unwilling to be distracted and waste energy on anything that is not you personally bringing your best resources to helping us get where we're going, which earth signs, feeding the tribe. Like that's really what that earth energy boils down to, is like anything that we're trying to make happen in the physical, anything that we are trying to move the ball down the field, we're trying to build the wall, we're trying to, that is so not the connotation that I meant, like my Saturn example in the last chapter of like the wall being your Saturnian daily devotional work, like whatever you are building it every single day. You put a few more bricks on it today, you put a few more bricks on it tomorrow, you put a few more bricks on it for 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 days, and you really got something accomplished, like you're not here anymore and that thing is still sitting there. So like that is that Capricorn energy of like, I'm not piling up bricks, I'm building a 30-foot wall, like it's a very different vibe. And so this whole like ignoring the process, I'm not deterred by the fact that building this wall is going to take my whole life. It's an 80-year process. So I'm not concerned with the process. I'm concerned with the outcome. And so there's a way that like this does serve a beautiful purpose as far as being willing to spend 30,000 days doing something, because the outcome is so important, so valuable, feels so like the best of what you can do with your authority, the best of what you can do with your control. You can take control and you can build something. You can take your resources that you have laying around your possession, things that maybe you're not even using anymore, and you can put it together day by day, hour by hour for decades. And when you're not here anymore, that thing will still be here. So ignoring the process really serves us when we are doing something that is important and when we are doing something that's going to take a long time. These are the gifts of Capricorn and like the mastery of a Capricorn South Node, where like you've mastered that energy in past lifetimes. You are not deterred by a long process. You're not deterred by a long lead time. You're not deterred by something that you're going to spend like 20 or 30 years on it before it has value to anybody else, and that's like an extreme version. Like maybe it has like little bits of value along the way, but like the real deal, like, dude, like it takes 3 or 4 decades to like really build something. And then other people are going to show, like you think about artists or inventors or engineers or whatever who did big magical things and really became famous after they died, like that kind of thing, where like, what if nobody ever knows you for what you did while you're alive? Are you still going to do it? And like Saturn, when we're doing our Saturn work, you're still going to do it, because it's not about being recognized. It's not about it adding value to other people. It's about you making the thing, like it's about you using your control and your resources to build that outcome because you can, right? Like that's really it. And like, it's that simple. And it feels, when we are climbing our Saturn mountain, when we're doing our Saturn work, like our daily devotional, it feels like home. It feels like this is what I was born for, was to like make this contribution to the world. And so if ever you are really trying to understand, like, why am I here? What's my purpose? Saturn is a beautiful planet to look to in your chart, to the sign, to the house, to the aspects. Like what is Saturn doing in your chart? Because that is the energetic code of how to build the work that feels like home, and to like discover the feeling of home from the inside out as you do your daily devotional work. It's like you get to come home to yourself in that process, and it feels amazing every single day. And so I think that's another reason that you can ignore the process, because the process is always the same. If you're headed towards something that is so important, it's the most important thing you can think to spend your life on, feeding the tribe, like it's valuable. And if that's the thing, and like today I get like 0.1% of the way closer there, right? Like 0.00001% closer to the way there, I'm closer. And you can eat that snack every day. Every day. You can snack on, I'm closer to the important thing. Every day. That's the gift of Saturn and being lined up with doing the work, making the contribution that you came here to make. So looking to the sign and the house and the aspects of what your Saturn is doing can point you in the direction of like what kinds of activities, what kinds of contemplations, what kinds of dots to connect, what kinds of things to reflect on, can be really helpful in trying to figure out like what kinds of activities are your version of like every day piling a few more bricks onto the wall, every day piling a few more bricks onto the wall. Like, for example, my Saturn is in Sagittarius, and for me, journaling every day is very important. It's this sensation of like coming home and reflecting on who am I? What do I believe? What do I think is true? What have I experienced, and what has that led me to believe is true? And do I still want to believe in that after I've now educated myself out here on my leading edge? So exposing myself to new horizons and learning new things, higher minded ideas, contemplation, more abstract ideas, learning these things and then having the reflections that filter through me because I'm learning these things and writing about my experience of it in my journal. I feel like I'm an explorer of my inner world, and that is Saturn and Sagittarius for me. And so every day when I explore these higher education realms, which is just like basically watching content on YouTube, like learning more about astrology or whatever the topic is, and then taking notes and writing and remembering and telling stories and pulling pieces up out of my own personal identity, right? Like I have Saturn in a fire sign. So like every day I build my identity a little bit more. Every day I get a little bit more firm in who I am, right? Like I'm a very air dominant, water dominant person. And so my identity is like very fluid. But that Saturn in Sagittarius, every day I get to know myself a little bit more, and it is truly the feeling of coming home to me. So I wish that for everyone. I wish that for everyone, that like you would be so in love with getting closer to your destination that you don't even give a fuck what the process is doing. Like, oh, it was a hard day. We got closer to our destination. Oh, we backslid 30 miles down the mountain. Like, well, but we gained this and we gained this, and that's going to help us because remember, we're going to have to re-go through that part. Remember that hard part that we made it through, and this tool that we found, like it's going to help that hard part be a little bit easier as we move back towards the top of the mountain. Like we're getting closer. We have tools now. And it's this excitement about how do we get to the, like, how do we make it happen? How do we build the thing that feels most important? And Capricorn mastery is this wisdom of truly, how do you do that? How do you do that? I would love to hear some Capricorn wisdom in the comments, especially with this being Capricorn season right now. At the time I'm going to release this, the Capricorn new moon is coming up in the beginning of January 2024. This is a great time. And I would say even in kind of a timeless sense, no matter when you're watching this, for you personally, this is even a great time to think about your intentions of like for real, 30, 40, 50 years from now, what do you want to exist because you put it there? And how do you build it a few more bricks at a time every single day? And how, like, that kind of perseverance, I think, is often mistaken for motivation. Like, I get told a lot that, like, you're so motivated. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm very lazy. But I am absolutely getting to the top of the mountain. I am absolutely every day building my identity a little bit more. And I have, that Saturn in Sagittarius, at the end of Sagittarius, trining this supportive aspect back to my moon in late Leo. So often when I firm up a piece of my identity, I'm coming here. First and foremost, first order of business is to get on a video and express myself. It's a very helpful channel of energy that it isn't motivation. It's every day me doing my daily devotional to building my identity. And that energy overflows into this joy, this moon in the 5th house in Leo, this joy of getting to share my creations with the world. Look, guys, I created another little piece of my identity. Look at this. And this video may not sound like that's what this is, but it is. Because every bit of clarity, every bit of empowerment that I wrapped around the Capricorn shadow, I gave it to me first. I gave it to me first in the pages of my journal. I gave it to me first in the contemplations, the quiet contemplations inside my own mind. I healed the this is a bad thing vibe around these components first for myself, through this daily devotional, through this daily self-reflection in my journal, through my Saturnian work. I did this for me. I did it because 50, 60, 70 years from now, I want to be a portrait of like a role model, an example of what it looks like to allow for divine authenticity, meaning immune to the world, like in the world, not of the world, right? Like I want my aura to be so radiant from the inside out with like the pure extension of source energy that I am, that we all are. I want to clarify my aura so that that light can get out, so that that light burns brighter, so that there's less noise in my energy field, so that there's less things like stopping that light from getting out into the world. Like every day I clarify my energy field, I clarify my identity every day, and it is a labor of love. And it looks like I'm really motivated, like, oh, you've been doing self-care for 7 years, like 7.5 years, like how do you find that kind of motivation? And it's like, it's really not like that. It is so the carrot that we talked about in the beginning of this video, the carrot and the stick, like in terms of when it comes to like motivation and why are you doing it? Sometimes we're doing it because of the incentive, like the positive reward that's out in front of us, that's up ahead, that's like we're headed in that direction, we're getting closer to where we want to be. The tribe's gonna have a feast, like great, like we're gonna have this big harvest and everybody's gonna have a bounty. It's gonna be wonderful. I'm gonna make that happen. That's the carrot, right? Like being motivated towards something is a carrot. Being motivated because somebody's hitting you with a stick and it hurts and you're running away from it, like that is a very different thing, right? And so I think a lot of people use a lot of sticks to motivate themselves. And Capricorn energy is like the secret MVP of like, dude, like the carrot for the win, right? Like have the vision, like what are you building, right? What do you want? What do you want to exist that's here even after you're not anymore? Right? Like Saturn, the timekeeper, is where we have to come face to face with our own mortality. We do not live forever. There is death. It is guaranteed. This life experience will be over sometime. And maybe that's a little bit morbid, but I don't think so. I think this is part of why Capricorn energy does have the shadow side of like mistyping the urgency of the situation, like a little too quick to call it an urgent situation, because there is this awareness of time. There's like a really keen awareness of time. And so I think about like from a coaching standpoint, for example, of like, how can you find a place for this in your life? You can realize that like not everybody has the same amazing understanding of time that you do, right? Like you have a good sense of how long something will take, or like a very realistic expectation of like, I'm going to build this thing and it's going to take me 50 years. You know, an impatient sign, a sign who can't see the bigger vision, they may have a really hard time keeping going for 50 years while you're doing this thing that like nobody ever pats you on the back for. You're just doing it because that's the most important thing you could be doing. And like, how amazing that is, and how like what other way would you want to pass the time? What other way would you want to lay on your deathbed, or preferably fall asleep and don't wake up, like, and just, yeah, like go to sleep one night being really satisfied with yet another day of building the work, and then, that's just it. It's over. And like, you're at peace with that because, I put 40,000 days into that project and it's pretty stellar. Could it have been better? Of course, always. But it's there. It exists, right? Like, it's feeding the tribe. It's contributed. It's making an impact. And long after you're gone, it's making its impact. It has life force of its own, but it only has that life force because you put it there. You put it there today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And it's not motivation. It's the carrot. The carrot is so yummy. Getting closer to the vision of what you're building and the importance of it. The importance of using your span of control to make this world a better place for us all. We are all in this together. It has been my joy to cover yet another tendency to leave behind on the list. That'll do it for the tendencies to leave behind. But if you want to stick with me, I have one more segment for you. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about something that I've been creating. And if you see the smile on my face, like, this is the gift of Saturn, like this level of enjoyment that is possible, that we can have by using our control to build something that feels important to us and putting it there so that it's there, and then moving on and putting the next thing there and the next thing there and letting the bricks stack on top of themselves. And after the last 2.5-ish years of posting on YouTube, I could not be prouder to say that I have 600 videos on YouTube, which is just freaking nuts. And at this point, like, basically those 600 videos, how I see it is like, that's been literally hundreds of hours of external processing of my stories, of what I've learned, of the little pieces of my identity that I have clarified through my daily devotional of looking inward and exploring my inner worlds. And at this point, there is something of like a culmination, like a coming full circle, the threads all pulling themselves together, pulling things that I've been creating and clarifying as I go, like little snippets, like, here's this perspective, and here's this thing, and here's this list of all the zodiacs and the ways that they need self-care, and like, like, I have all of these little things like all scattered about in my Google Drive. And at this point, I have created 4 eBooks, and currently 2 of those eBooks are available on my Etsy shop. So the link for the Etsy shop is in the description. I would love it if you would go look in there, like, just come walk through, just browse even, you know what I mean? The images that I created, especially for the self-care one, the other ones are beautiful too, but I just did the self-care one, and the ultimate guide to self-care is available now in the Etsy shop. But the images that I created, like, to go along with the Etsy listing, they're so pretty, and they pull out some of like the key ideas of the material. Like, what seeds am I really hoping get planted into somebody who would read that ebook, right? And so the images that are on the Etsy listing are like a preview of the philosophies that you'll find in deeper fashion inside that ebook. So yeah, I'm like super proud of both of the ebooks that are already on the Etsy shop and the other ones that are like still in the works. I am also, let me tell you this too, before you buy the ebook version, I am in the process of more Capricornian building. I get really excited about like setting up new things, new infrastructure. And I'm working with a printer right now that's like here in my hometown, that's a local business, and they are printing the books with a spiral binder. I'm so excited about a spiral binder. I love a spiral notebook. And when I was doing the self-publishing on Amazon, it's all like a hard binding, more like a book would be. And those are pretty difficult to journal in. I really love a spiral bound notebook. The pages turn so easy, beautiful for note taking. The user experience far exceeds of if you're going to write in it a lot. So I'm so excited to get some printed copies that are in a spiral binding. I do not have those yet. I've ordered one printed copy of the 4 books that I've created so far. 1 copy of each. I'm going to look through those, do a final QA, and then order a first batch of each of those books so that I have them. And when they get ordered through the Etsy shop, I can ship them out, and whichever shipping you pay for is the one that I'll do at the post office. So I'm going to experiment with shipping the books. I don't know how much work that's going to be, but I am going to get 5 of each copy. So I'll have 20 books to ship. And we'll see where I'm at the end of that. So yeah, if it's fun, if it's like cool, if those printed books are worth it, I mean, I have a feeling it's going to be worth the little bit of effort that it's going to take to put the printed books in people's hands. But I haven't even seen the printed book yet. This is all just my vision. This is like the picture in my mind that's the carrot, that's like I can literally feel the books in my hand. I can feel the plastic spiral binder that's like circling through the pages. I can feel the heavier cardstock cover and then the lighter interior pages. I can feel how this one is like 80 pages and it's a little bit heavier, and this one's only 60 pages and it's a little bit thinner and lighter. Like I can feel these books in my hands and I want to hold them. I want to hold them. And I want you to hold them if you want to. So if you want one of these printed books I'm going to show you the 4 ebooks here on the screen that I'm talking about that are created and are in the works of being into the Etsy shop, being put into the Etsy shop. So if you would want a printed book of any of these, please go ahead and send me an email, just because I am going to have to order them in advance. And so I want to make sure I get enough copies for anybody who's interested. I don't have the price yet, but like same, if you would like to be put kind of like on a list of interested people to receive more details about the price of the printed book, it'll be a little bit more than the ebook just because it'll have to cover the cost of the printing. But if you're interested and want more information about that, send me an email to owningauthenticity@gmail.com. And when I have more information, I will definitely let you know. But yeah, that's something that like, it's not just for ebooks. It's really not. It's like a whole archive. Like what's at the top of the mountain? Like what can I see? It's a whole archive of ebooks, because one of the ebooks, I'm going to blow it up here so you can see it a little bit better, is it's a tour of your divine design. It's meant to be like a guided tour, very similar to what I would love to be able to do with individuals in like an individual coaching session, to be able to like take one piece of the chart at a time and really sink into that, as far as like feeling for that energy and loving that energy inside of yourself. And so this book is like, when you lay open the book in the spiral binder, on one side you'll have like Aries energy. This first book is the 12 zodiac archetypes. It'll be Aries energy, an overview of Aries energy, some gifts of Aries energy, like why, if we have all 12 of the zodiac archetypes within us, within our natal chart, and we're weaving them all together in a unique way, what are the gifts that Aries energy allows for? So meaning, like, if you really needed to be courageous, for example, that's you pulling on your Aries energy, perhaps. So like how to get to know the 12 zodiac archetypes. So we list the gifts, and then there's also the shadow portion where it's like, okay, so like if you have really heavy Aries energy, what are you maybe looking for as far as ways that Aries energy can get out of balance with the other archetypes, ways where we can take it too far. And so that's on the left side, this nice overview, in-depth overview. It's kind of in-depth. It depends on how in-depth you already are into astrology. I would say that this book is built more for a beginner level, but I will say, because it's only about a half content book, where again, like the left hand side would be the overview of the energy, and on the right hand side are some prompts of things to journal on and reflect on, and like, how's your relationship with this, and what has this been like, and how does that work out for you, and to spend some time doing the contemplation, doing the self the self-introspection, self-reflection, like that, I mean, dude, there's no bottom to the well. So like, no matter how deep you are into it, you may still enjoy the reminder, the prompts of like, here's the overview of the energy, and like, here's some space to think about that energy inside yourself. So I'm not saying that it's only for beginners, only that overview is only going to be in depth if you're somewhat newer to astrology. But that being said, it's like, okay, so what else is in the pipeline? Because this first book of a tour of your divine, this is a mouthful, a tour of your divine design is the 12 zodiac archetypes. So that's really all we get into at the end of that book. It also does go into the modalities. So cardinal, fixed, and mutable. There's overviews on each of those. And then also the 4 elements. So the fire, water, air, and earth signs, and kind of overviews of the elemental energies, and done in a very similar fashion to the way the zodiac archetypes are done. And so that's the first book. The second book is planets and points. So the overviews would be like a page for the sun, and then a page to reflect on your sun energy, and then a page for the moon, and a place to reflect on your moon energy. And so I have a list of points that I have the material scattered out and about in different PowerPoint presentations and spreadsheets and like all the things, but like weaving it all together into one coherent location, and I think almost even more importantly, carving out the space to guide the self-reflection around those topics. That is the coaching part of like, these are the kinds of questions that I would want to ask if I was going to sit across from someone. So my idea with these books is like, instead of doing a bunch of individual coaching sessions, it takes a lot of energy for me to sit through that. It's like doing these books and then selling them for cheap, for $15 a book, rather than like paying for individual sessions, and like you spending your time to do your reflections. And then at that point, I would love to get an email someday that's like, hey, I've been working through your 12 zodiac archetypes book and I filled out the whole thing, and I would really love an individual session because I have several questions that I would love to discuss with you. Like, that's like a total brain orgasm just happened right there. Like, oh my God, I would love that. The other idea that I had, like, again, talking about building all the things, right? The 50-year plan. The other idea that I had was like to do a course, like not a video course, but like an in-person on Zoom or in person really, where we use the books and we have guided conversations where like your homework, quote unquote, is to like fill out the Aries section, and then we're going to come together on Zoom and talk more in depth about Aries energy. Now that all of us have studied it, we all studied the same material, and now we're going to come together and have a like conversation group. Like again, like that sounds so much fun. So much fun. But you can't do that if you don't have the books. So it's like, okay, like gotta back up, and like I can't ignore the process. I have to like step by step by step by step by step. But it is so fun to get to share with you guys like what I'm working on behind the scenes, especially these last, like at the time I'm recording this, these last like month or two, I haven't recorded nearly as many videos. And a big reason for that is because I have been making these eBooks. So like, thank you so much for letting me talk to you about this. Again, if you wouldn't mind, walk through the Etsy shop every once in a while, because you never know what's new over there. I haven't even shared all the things that are in the pipeline. So yeah, please do what you can to support this channel. I really do appreciate anyone who is sending some energy back my way to reciprocate any of the value that you might be finding in these videos. I genuinely appreciate that. It does help to fuel my enthusiasm and my creativity to hear when the work that I put out in the world is valuable to other people. So thank you so much for liking the videos, commenting on the videos, sending them to your friends if they're going to be into this kind of content, looking at the Etsy shop, on and on and on. There's all kinds of ways that I feel your support and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, I do hope that you will have so much fun playing with your daily devotional, like whatever it is that you're here to build throughout the rest of your life.
And so will I.